Welcome to TV, Tennessee Valley Church. This week we're in Scottsboro at the famous Unclaimed Baggage Center, known as the nation's only retailer of lost luggage. It's an ingenious plan. After airlines do a 3-month search for the owners of lost bags, Unclaimed Baggage buys the luggage and repurposes it, gives the contents new life. The folks at Unclaimed Baggage just won't give up on lost things. I wish you could have known the late Frank Turner. Frank lived in Mount Washington, Kentucky, where I once was pastor. He told his story to us, his church family, one February Sunday morning in the year 2000. It was 1 year after he became a follower of Jesus. I kept his written comments. He began by describing his youth. I attended church services for about 20 years, he said. I believed in God, but never seemed in touch with Him. So I drifted away. On June 30, 1997, Frank was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. He was about 50 years old. Frank wrote, "I didn't know how to explain it. I felt like I had a hand of compassion on my shoulder. It was a strange feeling. Something was happening to me. On June 3rd, 1998, my father had a stroke. He went into a coma and was put on life support. There was that feeling again, something tugging at me. On June 10, 1998, he died. On June 15, my uncle died. Then on June 28, my nephew was killed. Through all of this," he said, "there was that feeling, that tugging at my heart. On Christmas Eve, 1998, I went to church with my wife, Sharon. I knew then what I was missing. I knew what had been tugging at my heart. It was God," he said. On February 21, 1999, at the conclusion of a Sunday morning worship service, Frank declared he wanted to become a follower of Jesus. We prayed together, and in that moment, Frank began a new life. The next Sunday, February 28, I baptized Frank. Frank was lost, but God went looking for him. Frank said that Sunday morning to his church family, "I thank God for not giving up on me." Today we're considering Jesus' story about a lost sheep and a shepherd who crisscrossed the countryside looking for that lost sheep. We're considering Jesus' story about a lost coin and a lady who turned her house topsy-turvy to find that precious coin. Two metaphors about lost people and God's relentless love, His unwillingness to give up on them. What does it mean for a person to be lost? Well, it could be an intellectual lostness, a search for truth without having found it, wandering around in the world of spiritual ideas without knowing what's what. It could be a moral lostness, trying to make decisions about right and wrong without a moral compass or objective standards. To be lost could mean feeling adrift and off course, a lack of purpose, and unmet desire to find meaning and direction. To be lost could mean an addiction or an irresponsible lifestyle that's out of control. To be lost could mean having wandered away from the Christian family, drifted away from church. To be lost could mean one is completely separated from God, never having been counted as a member of God's family, never having really been, to quote Jesus, born again. If you are lost, whatever your lostness is, you need to know that God has been searching for you. He is saddened by your struggle, and He fears for you because you are vulnerable. You are the focus of His love, and He would do just about anything to be in close relationship with you. He is pursuing you like a shepherd looking for lost sheep, like a woman turning the house upside down looking for a treasured lost coin. If you are lost, God will pursue you wherever you go. Have you sensed Him pursuing you? Do you remember Frank Turner, my friend from Kentucky, who said that In circumstance after circumstance, he felt this strange tugging at his heart, and remember he said he eventually realized it was God? Perhaps you experience occasional, unexplainable feelings, and maybe there's that feeling that maybe there's something more to life than what you have. You see, God is drawing you. Perhaps your coworker or fellow student made a comment to you out of the blue about your relationship with God. That's not coincidence. Perhaps you were sitting in an emergency room or a boardroom or courtroom or principal's office or wherever it was you last sat wondering what your future holds, and you got that funny sense that maybe you should pray. That wasn't just nerves, that was God inviting you to talk. Maybe you hadn't planned to watch this edition of TV Church, and you just happened to click on this link or turn to this channel. Maybe it's a fluke. Or maybe God Himself planted that idea. God has pursued you even when you weren't looking for Him. As God says in Isaiah 65:1, I revealed myself to those who did not ask for me. In Luke chapter 15, we find religious leaders who were appalled at the people Jesus was hanging out with. Sinners, no less. Jesus didn't just hang out with them. He seemed to seek them out. Members of the religious establishment were absolutely beside themselves that Jesus was eating with people outside the accepted circles. So, Jesus told the religious leaders a story, a parable, two really. I want you to hear those two short stories now, and we'll talk about them in a few minutes.
Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Doesn't he leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? And when he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home. Then he calls his friends and neighbors together and says, "Rejoice with me, I have found my lost sheep." I tell you that in the same way there will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who do not need to repent. Or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Doesn't she light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she calls her friends and neighbors together and says, "Rejoice with me, I have found my lost coin." In the same way, I tell you, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents.
How great the chasm that lay between us, how high the mountain I could not climb. In desperation I turned to heaven and spoke your name into the night. Then through the darkness your loving kindness tore through the shadows of my soul. The work is finished, the end is written. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Who could imagine so great a mercy? What heart could fathom such boundless grace? The God of ages stepped down from glory to wear my sin and bear my shame. The cross has spoken, I am forgiven. The King of Kings calls me his own. Beautiful Savior, I'm yours forever. Jesus Christ, my living hope. So hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name. the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe out of the silence. The roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. 'Cause Jesus, yours is the victory. Yeah. Hallelujah. Praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah. Death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah. Praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah. Death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Oh God, you are my living hope.
Jennifer Kritner is one of the vice presidents here at Unclaimed Baggage, and she joins us now. Thank you for letting us come here today.
Such an honor for you to include us.
And Jennifer, everybody has heard Unclaimed Baggage in Scottsboro. You know, worldwide you're known. But a lot of people don't know that you actually have a charitable organization,
Right.
Reclaiming for Good.
That's right. It's called Reclaim for Good, and it's the passion of our heart. Our purpose here at Unclaimed Baggage is to redeem the lost, the unclaimed, and rejected for the glory of God. Easily a third of everything that comes through Unclaimed Baggage is donated to worthwhile charities, both locally, throughout our state, throughout our nation, throughout our world. So it's really a powerful thing.
And you've been able to touch lives. You mentioned earlier the mom who needed glasses in another country.
Yeah, so we're the single source provider for Lions Club International. So all of the eyewear that they take with them on missions trips comes directly from Unclaimed Baggage. We have thousands of them, tens of thousands of them that we donate to Lions Club. And we hear stories back from their missions trips, like in Mexico. There was a precious young mother who had 3 children. She was a single mom and worked in a factory. She could no longer see to do the tedious sewing work that her job required. And so she had to go home with no income. But when Lions Club came on the scene with their optometrist, armed with these glasses from Unclaimed Baggage, they were able to pair her with the right prescription and put her back to work, which is something that I take for granted. You know, as I was telling you, my eye doctor's a couple of blocks away, and I have access to eye care, to medical care. But for people in these third world countries, it's so meaningful. And we just feel like everything that's lost, we want to give it a second life. We don't want it to end up in a landfill. We kind of joke that we were sustainability before sustainability was cool. You know, we want to redeem these items and give them a second life. Whether you're shopping in the store and you see a really beautiful dress on the rack that you want to grab, or maybe it's a pair of eyeglasses that we can donate to Lions Club International, or a wheelchair that goes to Wheels for the World. We want to do good with these items that are unclaimed.
And you have just celebrated your 50th anniversary,
Yes.
and that brought new things, online shopping.
It did. We were so excited. The year of the pandemic, 2020, was our 50th anniversary. And part of that celebration, we launched our website, which is www.unclaimedbaggage.com. And it started in June 2020, and we have been blown away by the reception from people all over the country. It's pretty fascinating to see the states that are most connected to our brand. Of course, Alabama shops very heavily, but California and Texas and Oregon and New York are regularly in the top 5 in terms of visitors and purchasers. And it's so cool to see those people from all over the country connect with our Unclaimed Baggage brand.
And I've got to ask you, you guys put through 5,000 to 7,000 new pieces a day. What's the strangest scariest thing that you've seen come through in somebody's luggage?
That's a great question. We have had a live rattlesnake, which was pretty interesting. I would say we've had shrunken heads and Egyptian artifacts that we sent to Christie's auction house. The coolest things that I've personally ever seen would be the 40-carat emerald, raw emerald. It was in the toe of a sock, rolled up and tossed in someone's suitcase, but it came through back in the late 90s, early 2000s. That was pretty cool. And I would also say the suits of armor that have come through have been pretty fascinating, as well as some Versace runway gowns. We had a trunk full of those that landed here, and they were so beautiful and so interesting to interact with.
And how much fun to try those on.
So fun.
And go home with those.
So fun.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, Lisa.
Back to the story of the shepherd who had 99 sheep safe and sound in the fold, but then left them to go looking for the lost sheep. And the story of the lady who had 10 silver coins but lost one and went to all kinds of trouble to find the one that was lost. My wife Carrie and I were driving through Columbia, South Carolina one day, and I was scanning the stations on the radio. I came across a woman preacher whose voice sounded like she was maybe up in years. But she spoke beautifully, and her subject was Jesus' parable of the lost coin. She made a great point. She imagined that coin being a valuable piece of silver, and she said that piece of silver had the same value no matter where it had gotten itself lost, whether in an alley or under the house or out in the woods. No matter where it was, it had the same value. It was as valuable in a dirty, rotten place as in the pocket of a rich man. Where it was lost, didn't determine its value. What a beautiful insight. The value of the coin was not determined by how it had been spent, by whether it was clean or dirty, or where it had gotten lost. Its value was determined by whoever minted the coin and could not be diminished. The same is true of that lost sheep. Its value is not determined by how or where it got lost. It might be either stubborn or directionally challenged, and maybe the sheep has a history of wandering off. But it is still one of the shepherd's precious sheep. He was there at its birth. He knows the sheep and calls the sheep by name. The fact that the sheep is lost does not make it worthless or hopeless. Think about the merchandise at Unclaimed Baggage. The fact that these things were lost does not make them worthless or hopeless. This is good stuff. Top-notch laptops, the dressiest of dresses, the finest of finery, first-rate golf gear, in case my wife Carrie is watching. Look at this ring. This multi-diamonded ring is appraised at $15,000. This is, they tell me, an Hermès bracelet from France, appraises at $18,000. This is a 14-carat ruby, appraised at $42,000. Being lost does not make these things worthless or hopeless. And being lost does not make people worthless or hopeless either. And we all need to remember that. Being lost does not make people worthless or hopeless. God's grace, His unconditional, undeserved, unrelenting love says people are of great value to Him, no matter where or how we've gotten ourselves lost. Grace says that your place in God's heart and your value in God's eyes are not determined by your behavior or your performance. Your place in God's heart and your value in God's eyes are not determined by whether you are safe and sound or lost. If your lostness is just that you have wandered away from the church, then I encourage you to return. Churches certainly are not perfect, but there are lots of churches, including First Baptist Huntsville, who would love to see you come back. If you're not a Christ follower yet, I would I'd love to speak to you just for a moment. Jesus ends his story by telling of the rejoicing in heaven over one person who turns to Jesus. The shepherd's not going to drag you kicking and bleating into the fold, but he will chase you down your boulevard of broken dreams. He will invite you and welcome you and throw a party in heaven over you. I read of a man named Jorge who lived in Spain. Jorge and his son Paco had a terrible argument. And the next morning, Jorge found his son's bed empty. Paco had run away from home. The sight of that empty bed twisted Jorge's heart into knots. He wanted his son Paco back more than anything. So Jorge went to a prominent place in the city and placed a large sign that read, "Paco, come home. I love you. Meet me here tomorrow morning." The father, Jorge, went to that spot the next morning where 7 young runaways named Paco were waiting. 7 young runaways named Paco who had seen the sign. 7 young runaways, each hoping it was his father who cared enough to invite him home. Your loving Father is looking for you. You can be like John Newton, that 19th century slave trader whom God pursued from continent to continent and across the Atlantic. John Newton's life was radically changed by God's amazing grace, and he wrote, "I once was lost, but now I'm found." At the end of this program, John and Kristen are going to tell you how you can contact us so that we may be of help if you're ready to be found.
In the crushing, in the pressing, you are making new wine. In the soil I now surrender, you are breaking new ground. So I yield to you and to your careful hand. When I trust you, I don't need to understand. So make me your vessel, make me an offering, make me whatever you wanted me to be. God, I came here with nothing, but all you have given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. In the crushing, in the pressing, you are breaking new wine. In the soil I now surrender, you are breaking new ground. Yes, you are, Lord. Yes, you are breaking new ground. So make me your vessel, make me an offering, make me whatever you want me to be. God, I came here with nothing, but all you have given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Oh, Jesus, bring new wine out of me. 'Cause where there is new wine, there is new power, there is new freedom, and the kingdom is here. I lay down my old flames,
We're so glad you were with us for TV Church today. I'm Kristen, minister to kids and families here at First Baptist Huntsville.
And I'm John, minister to young adults. That would be those in their 20s and their 30s.
We like to say we're a church at the heart of the city with a heart for the region. Wherever you're watching from in our city or region, we're glad you've joined us and want to connect with you.
There are 3 places you can connect or look around and find helpful resources. Check out our Facebook page, our website at fbchsv.org, and take a look at tvchurch.info. There you'll even find a short downloadable booklet that Travis has written with you in mind called Stuff I Wish I'd Learned in Sunday School.
We're in the middle of summer now with lots of great opportunities for all ages, from a young adults gathering on Tuesday nights to messy art night for preschool families and a ladies game night later this week. We hope you'll take a look at all the goings on at and around FBC this summer and join us.
Now you heard Travis talk on the program today about the God who seeks us. If you feel like that describes you and you want to know God more, then we invite you to text us at the number on your screen, and one of the ministers from First Baptist Huntsville will reach out to you. And for all of us, as we close today, we invite you to join us for this prayer that was written by Thomas Aquinas. Grant us, O Lord our God, minds to know you, hearts to seek you, wisdom to find you, conduct pleasing to you, faithful perseverance in waiting for you, and a hope of finally embracing you. Amen.
So do you use somebody else's toothpaste?
Well, brushes, but never. Oh, look.
Some deodorant.
See, that's not even. That's new.
New?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. I think we just toss that.
Toss it?
Yes.
You're tossing a lot of good stuff.